You're listening to Cardistrytalk, a podcast that explores the new art form of cardistry. I'm sitting down with notable members of the community to talk about how we can improve our cards, creativity, and community. I'm your host, Caleb Smith. Welcome to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cardistrytalk. This is episode 62, and today I'm joined by Luke. You may know him from Seattle Cardistry, from some of the Discord championships in the past, and just he's created a lot of unique type of videos that you don't see a lot in the community. Luke, welcome to the show. Super happy to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate the consideration.
Yeah, so it's really exciting to have you on. I know Jason recommended you, and I think some other people have in the past as well. But just jumping into it, I just recently did a very small series on kind of fanning, talking with people in the community that are really good at fans. So I want to kind of continue with that topic since you're someone that a lot of people respect, especially your Carnean fan. Do you have any overall fanning tips or just any tips on fanning in general?
I think the one you're going to see around the most is fanning powder. It's probably one of the most coveted things in terms of, like, if you remember Predator, I wasn't personally in cardistry when he was doing things, but he's pretty well known as, like, the OG fanning, like, guru. And you'll notice that all of his fans look perfect because he is perfect. But fanning powder is the best thing for performing it in, like, a video, because fanning powder is going to get you the most consistent type of results. But if you want just, like, to get really good at fans, you really need to practice with, like, brand new decks for most things. Because when you learn how to, like, make a fan and you're consistent with it with, like, a very slippery new deck, that's the best way to, like... It's like same thing with packet cuts, really. If you can do a packet cut with a brand new deck, you could probably do it with, like, a broken in one, because broken in just makes it easier to handle. So anytime that I'm practicing a fan, I try and use decks that are, like, in better condition and not broken in or anything.
I know that's something Leo Flores said when he was on the show previously as well, specifically with packet cuts in mind. Like, he exclusively wants to use new decks when he's creating a move, so that, like, he figures if you can do it with a slippery deck right out of the box, you'll be able to do it with, hopefully, almost anything.
Yep. Leo is proud of the fact that his his packets are not always clean, because I've heard him talk about that type of thing before.
And then fanning powder is one that pretty much everybody I've had on has recommended. Obviously, it's something I haven't delved into too much. But if you're listening right now, I would say definitely check it out, because it's really cheap and it's really hard to mess up the fanning powder process, I think.
I think it comes in little cans, like some baking powders and things, where you can, like, sprinkle it on with a little grate. But the can that I bought, there you go, he's got one. I bought off of Murphy's Magic. I don't really know where else you can get it, because that was the first place that I saw. And there are countless tutorials on how to, like, apply it to decks the right way. There's one on basically every major cardistry channel, like Fontaine, School of Cardistry, even Lotus in Hand has one, so... The resources are out there, so if you want a brand new way to feel decks, fanning powder is the way to go. And I actually really like doing packet cuts with a deck that has fanning powder on it for some reason. It's an odd sensation. It gives the deck a whole different field. Or feel, not field.
Yeah. I sometimes, like, I just get so used to USPCC cards, specifically crushed ones especially, that, like, sometimes I just have to switch it up to other things like Cardamundi or like a deck with fanning powder, just to, like, keep things fun, I guess.
Yeah. But you know the air pockets that are in the finish for cards? It does change how fanning powder works with it. Some decks that are printed by, like, in Taiwan, a lot of them have larger air pockets. I don't know what term it is for the type of card production, but it's just sometimes the air pockets are larger, so fanning powder works for a smaller amount of time, or just doesn't work at all, because there's more room for the powder to clump up. But with, like, USPCC decks, you apply fanning powder, a couple weeks of good use, and then you'll have to reapply it. And then there are some decks where it's like, wow, I powdered this a year ago and it's still going strong. I don't know the science behind it, but it is just all experimentation if you're wanting to get used to that type of thing.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned, like, Penguin Magic sells them, but also Amazon sells them. I was looking at them. Most magic shops. I was looking at a lot of them because I wanted to do like a fan powder comparison video, but most of them are the exact same substance. It's some type of zinc magnesium or something, but mostly they're the exact same thing. Going into another topic, and the one that's most talked about in the podcast, is kind of just the creative process and making moves, because I feel like everybody has a little bit of a different take on it.
Yeah.
For you, what's kind of your creative process when making moves, and also your videos? Because I feel like your videos particularly are way different than the norm.
Thank you. I don't try necessarily too hard to make something that is different, but I do just try and make whatever like I want to, and not try and make like a good, like typical type of video. With moves specifically, I don't have anything to show it because I haven't technically shown the move yet, but my favorite way of creating moves is taking a flourish or something from someone that I know, or just one that I like, and I essentially swap out the type of mechanic that's used. And my favorite way of doing that is it's actually one of Jason's moves that I'm talking about. But he has a lot of like grips like this with packets, and all I did was I took as many packets in that cut as possible, and I turned them into corner grip packets, and it allows you to explore an entirely different field of movement with a structure that you really like. So the whole, like steal like an artist, you just take something that you like and you just essentially change it into something that you'd prefer. I love moves that have spinning grip packets. I just think the movement, all the circular motions and all that in cuts is amazing to watch, and I love to create things with that. So that is my major things. And if it's like a spinny cut move, I'll try and make it with not corner grip packets and see how that works.
Mm-hmm. I think that's how a lot of people start off. Most people, I think, use certain openers to start off with that they've seen other people use. But there's always got to be like some starting point or some basic level of stealing something from somewhere else, because so much has already been created, and I think that's a lot of what art is kind of mashing things together.
Yeah, one type of move specifically that I think is really hard to create something that is original or doesn't look like it's a part of the mass-produced types of moves that are out nowadays are interlocks, because those are my other favorite type of cut. And like most often you will see something along the lines of this interlock right here, these two packets here, and it is so hard to make something that isn't this, but it is very fun to try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interlocks are really hard to make, in my opinion.
They're very hard to do as well, but I think they're one of the most satisfying types of things to do. That's actually why I like fans as much as I do. Fans, interlocks, and cuts with spinny grips in them or corner grips in them, they're typically the harder moves to do. And I like the feeling of being able to do something that other people view as difficult to do.
With your moves, and this is something I see Jason doing, which is also out of Seattle, so maybe it's a Seattle thing right now, but you guys are kind of...
He's in Portland, so it's more like a Pacific Northwest type of thing, but the group chat is Seattle Cardistry, so he's an honorary Seattle Cardist.
Okay. But that section of the U.S., I guess, is kind of how do you display emotions through cardistry and also through editing, which I think is something, like I was saying, you and Jason, I think, are probably the best at the moment.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you have any insights on how to display emotions through moves to start out with, and then maybe we can talk about videos?
Moves specifically is definitely more of like the thing that Jason has explored a lot, because the man has at least half a dozen packet cuts that like he does specific hand movements or like shake. There's the one move Disorder where he's literally like causing his hands to shake as he's doing the move to like represent anxiety and things like that. And I'm not particularly like super good at expressing things through the moves themselves. I mean, I think definitely I can change up how I perform my moves, like speed things up or change the pacing to fit a more the type of vibe that I'm going for. I've never particularly tried expressing any type of emotion through a cut though.
Hmm.
So it's more on the videos that I like to focus.
Yeah. And it's like a really, really hard thing to do. I know that's what kind of Matthew Badwal said when he was on. It's like it's a really hard thing to display emotions through moves.
It is, yeah.
I think the best you can kind of do is how you perform it. Obviously, Jason has moves that are like Disorder, where the move itself does display an emotion. But I think how you perform something can also be pretty helpful in that aspect, like how fast or how sloppy you perform something, things like that. I think you can take into consideration. But like you were saying, you focus a lot more on the video aspect of stuff. So what are kind of some of your techniques when doing that, or kind of your thoughts when editing a video?
I think most people, I don't know, I can't speak for a lot of people, but a lot of people that I've talked with when they're thinking of making a video, they most often start with the song that they're using for a video. At least I do anyways. I don't know if you see this poster right here, I'm a big fan of this man's music, and he's the start of a lot of, I guess, emotional insight in my life, because, you know, I was your typical angsty teen at one point, if it doesn't show. But I think the biggest thing is that when I'm listening to music, because music is one of the greatest things in this world to enjoy, and I'm listening to music 24/7. So when I'm listening to a song, if I see something in my head, and that's how I think of music a lot, is I picture a video to go along with it. And there's all these different type of shots or different angles, different editing techniques in my head, and I am not very good at editing. So I have to try and recreate that in real life, which is very difficult to do. But a lot of it is messing around and figuring out what turns out the right way. Because I private, unlist, delete things all the time, because I'll go back and I'm like, oh my god, this is so cringy. Why did I do this? It just doesn't work like I wanted it to. And then I'll regret unlisting it, so I'll put it back up for a little bit until I regret putting it back up again. But it really is like I will spend hours just filming as many random things that come to mind, and then I'll spend another few hours in front of my computer just putting things in different orders to go along with the song, and just trying to see what can work. And I think you'll probably have noticed I'm definitely more of like a slower paced type of video oriented person. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna put as, you know, Eric Cardistry on Instagram. He put up a video a few days ago. It's this really wacky video concept where he like had a bunch of lights moving around, and then he just had a bunch of cardistry sped up in like a single clip. So it was like as much possible cardistry as you can fit. And I commented and I was like, I take the opposite approach to where I put as little cardistry as possible in a video per second, and I see how that works. Because I'm not consistent with the moves that I do. It takes me so long to get good takes for posts or videos.
Yeah.
So I'll get one good take after maybe 30 minutes of filming the same move, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make that last as long as I can in the video, because I don't want to have to film another move. So the cardistry is like, it's fun. The shuffling cards is fun, but it's the other aspects of the video that I actually enjoy making. So like what songs I can use, how to fit certain things. Tempos of videos is awesome. Timing it with the music is the best part about it. If you can time shots or angles or even parts of a move to a video, it makes the whole thing so much better.
Yeah. You know, just with video editing in general, something I've started to think more and more about is no matter what you're doing, you're almost creating a story, no matter what type of video you're creating. Whether it's cardistry or anything, there's almost like a narrative structure to it. So it's kind of like, how do you use that to your advantage? Another cardist that I think that like has a lot of other like B-roll and stuff like that is, have you ever heard of Kevin Malone cardistry? Kevin Malone.
The name sounds familiar. I don't think I could like recognize it off the top of my head though.
Yeah, he's like really like back in the day, Cardist. I don't think he posts much now, but back in like 2013, 2014, when I was getting into it, his stuff was really inspirational to me. But like his moves aren't like, not trying to diss him, but his moves aren't like revolutionary or anything. But just his editing style is so unique. He's one of my favorite Cardists to look at his videos. I feel like he's really underrated just because one, he doesn't post much at all anymore, but also his stuff wasn't like focused on the cleanest moves or anything. But there was really like some emotional impact behind what he was doing. You could definitely tell there was like purposes for his videos.
Yeah, I think in terms of what I aim for in making videos, because like I was saying, like it is just kind of messing around to see what works, but I also try and recreate a lot of things from other people. That's how most people make stuff, so I'm not ashamed to admit it. Carter, who's also a Seattle Cardist at the moment, and Jason are my two like biggest inspirations in terms of how I approach making videos and things. Because Carter is just, I don't know what the man is doing, but he can create like some of the wackiest and some of the best like videos around, and I'm just like, yeah, that works. I like that. And then Jason is just like Da Vinci in his prime for cardistry at the moment. That's how I view the man. So I don't know. I don't like, there are a lot of really good videos that I'm just like, wow, you can really tell that that's just different from everything that's being made or was being made at that time. Like, there's a video called Hiroshima. The name of the Cardist is slipping my mind at the moment, but it's just the tempo of the video, the angles he used, even the music is just kind of different compared to what's being made. So if you want to be different, you just kind of have to try, I guess. Don't try too hard. Don't worry about being different. It's not that big of a deal.
I will say too, something I feel like I've seen a little bit is there's almost like been releases that affect how everybody edits in Cardistry. So I feel like Fontaine Fam and like the Fontaine videos kind of created like the blueprint for a lot of videos during that time. And then anyone with the with
picture in picture.
Yeah, picture in picture, their Tokyo videos.
Last minute.
Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. That kind of like changed to where everybody edited for picture in picture for a while. So
every single person has made one video at least where they're like, you can see the Anyone Worldwide influence in it. And before anyone, definitely Fontaine was. It's kind of cool, in my opinion, to see the influence of things. And I think I have actually seen, especially in the last Discord competition that I was in, there were a couple people who were in other brackets and things, and I was like, you've got something going on there. I know I was a competitor, but I was just like, you've got a really good idea right here. This is a little piece of gold that you've got, and I can't wait to see it like flourish more. Like Sky, who was in the last Fontaine trials, that seeing him blow up was one of the greatest things. I love seeing the people who are like, yeah, I can pat your head because I'm older in the cardistry community and you're new, and then suddenly you're up here, and I'm like, wish I could be you.
Yeah, it's always really satisfying for me since I've been doing these episodes for so long, where I get people like Trin, who was also in the same tournament. I had him on the show a little bit before Fontaine trials, and like just seeing some of these people that I've talked with, that Greg having the missing video, some of these people I've talked with where they get kind of their shot in the spotlight. It's really satisfying to see because like, you know what they put in and then they finally get the result. It's very satisfying. I feel like a dad almost.
Yep. Yeah, it is kind of a little bit paternal in a way to like look, and I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of you. I know you barely know who I am, but I'm so proud of you for accomplishing what you're accomplishing.
Yeah.
This last Fontaine trials was great to watch. I did not expect to get in.
How was that whole experience?
It was definitely like a lot of like stress and nerve-wracking, because I every single like Cardistry Con championship or Discord championship, any competition where I'm like, yeah, I've got some time to make like a round, like one round video, and then I'll have to be like back in school or whatever. I'll enter just because I'm like, you know what, clout. There's free clout, and I get to showcase something. It may not be the greatest, but it's something. And I really, really liked the move that I put in for Fontaine Trials, and I was like, this is my chance to get like attention, maybe a BCA feature or something. And then the results came out, and I was just like, what the heck? I didn't expect to get in. And it was the craziest thing because, like, you know, Jason and Rasul and Neil and Seb, all my like closer friends in the Cardistry community were like, dude, you got in. This is great. You can like showcase your stuff. And I'm like, what stuff? What am I going to showcase? So that first round really was like, I was trying to scrape together good enough stuff. So I'm not even disappointed that I didn't make it past the first round. It was just fun to be a part of. Mm-hmm. I think I was watching one of Leo's live streams the other day, and Fontaine Trials came up, and I was just like, yeah, I gotta make a video or something to kind of like redeem myself for being knocked out first round. And his exact response was, oh yeah, you were in Fontaine Trials. And I'm like, ow. my ego was hurt a bit, but it's fun. Like, regardless of any stress that competitions bring, I was just happy to be there. Because I was like, it's Fontaine Trials. Do you know how awesome this is? And then I was like, yeah, round one video. Oh, I didn't make it? Cool. I get to watch all of these other amazing people like make their different videos. And look at some of the material that came out of it. Like Trin's videos, Sky's videos. There are so many good things there. And oh my god, I can't wait for the next one.
Mm-hmm. I think too, with like getting into competitions or even trying to audition or whatever you want to say to get into the competition, it forces you to try to create stuff, which I'm pretty bad at doing, is motivating myself to create something without having like a deadline. So that's a really nice aspect of it, is even if you go in without anything. I think Trin, for example, went in with very little content, I think, compared to what most people would expect. For the Fontaine Trials, and a lot of his stuff was made from just being on the grindstone. So that can be really nice aspect of competition, as it forces you. It
was Trin's round one annoyed me so much, and not because of any of the cardistry or anything, but because you know how many Kendrick Lamar songs were used in round. There were like 3 or 4 of them, and the one that Trin used was called Wesley's Theory, which is one of my favorite Kendrick Lamar songs, and I had planned on using it for just a random video a few months after the Fontaine Trials had happened. And I was watching the round one, and the song came on, and I was like, I'm all for reusing songs for things, but I was like, come on. I wanted to use this song. Now I don't want to use it anymore because you did a really good job with it.
Yeah. It's kind of sad too with that aspect of like, if you use a song that's already been used in a video before, like you're allowed to do it, but especially if the other one was really good, then you're going to be comparing it or thinking about the other one instead of looking at the one you're actually looking at. There's one that you actually want to show.
Yeah. I think there was one person who reused a song. Which one was it? I think it was the song in you know Fontaine's video, Pastel Paper, with the pink Fontaines?
Pinks?
Yeah. There was somebody in the Discord championship, the last one, and he and I were just casually chatting in one of the channels, and he was like, yeah, I'm thinking of using this song, and I was like, you can, by all means, go for it if you want to make something with it, because the whole point of creation should be you enjoy what you're creating. But I was like, if you're wanting to look at this at a competitive aspect, you might not want to, because that's a pretty memorable video out of Fontaine's like creative catalog. I'm like, you can, but you're going to have to try really hard to bypass the impression that the song gives.
Mm-hmm. And then another thing too, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but like one of the most gut-wrenching thing that I've experienced with cardistry is if you have a move and then someone else separately creates the exact same moves and showcases it before you. I've only had that happen once, like a long time ago, but that hurts, man.
There was it's happened once or twice, and it is a terrible feeling. But I think part of it, one of the things is, it depends on who is the person that releases it and determines how like upset I am about it. Because if it's like, I guess, for lack of a better term, another cardist like near me in terms of like where I put myself on like a structure of like quality or like how good of a cardist I am. If like someone nearby is like, yeah, they put out the same card, I'm like, cool. I had that move though. But if it's like somebody who's one of the like cardistry gods, like one of the really high, the celebrity tier cardists, I'm just like, great minds think alike. Thank you for putting that out there. That was my idea first, and I ain't never gonna say anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
There was I think 2019 Cardistrycon. I had been working on a 6-packet retrigger before Oliver put one out, and I showed him my idea. Now, albeit Oliver's 6-packet retrigger is way better than the idea that I had going, because it's shorter, it's more concise, it just works better as a move. But there's part of me that was like, I gave him that idea. But I don't tell that to anybody because it's Oliver, and Oliver would have made it without my input at all.
Mm-hmm. And then another topic that I have written down here, which we've kind of talked about a little bit, dancing around, is kind of Seattle Cardistry, which I think is one of the biggest cardistry groups at the moment. Almost like a boy band, one might say. Not really.
There's a photo that we have from one of our last jams. I can't remember what channel it was put on. It was probably Carter's. It was a Fever Dream jam when the Fever Dreams came out. And Carter got Fontaine to sponsor us having a jam and just like gave us a bunch of free Fever Dreams. And so we spent the whole day just going around, like messing around. Carter was filming everybody. And we have this picture on this giant like dead tree where it's all of us like standing around it and like up on the tree. And it's just like a memory in my head. I'm like, there is Seattle Cardistry. There is our group right there.
Mm-hmm. Get your album cover if you ever need one.
Yes.
But what kind of is your experience with that group, and kind of what have you learned and taken away from that group?
I don't know if I've necessarily like, in terms of like cardistry, like learned or taken away from anything. I love showing them things because like anytime we actually meet up in person, I actually go to school with one of the people that's in the Seattle Cardistry group. So we've met up a few times, and it's always fun to bounce like ideas off of people. But I think the best thing is just trying to cement a friendship rather than like a cardistry friend, if that makes any sense. Because all of the jams that I've been to with them, I hardly remember the cardistry relevant aspects to it. It's like that's on the back burner in my mind whenever I'm at a jam. I'm like, yeah, sure, if you want to film a move, I'll film a move. I don't ever film things at jams because I don't really care about it. But it's like, I know Carter feels the same way about some things because like he wants to play Frisbee with people when at this next Cardistry con. I'm like, that is the mentality to have. I love just going and like eating pizza with people because I don't get to see them for a lot of things. When I went to CardistryCon in 2019, that was the first time I ever met Jason in person, along with a couple of my other friends. I'd met Rasul before because he lives nearby, but I met Jason there in person for the first time ever after we had already become friends. And seeing people in person is just fulfilling, to say the least. It's great to be able to meet up and see people. Which sucks because they're having a jam this Saturday and I can't go because I'm working.
Mm-hmm. My mind it goes with what you're saying to the Matt Fox quote almost from, I think, CardistryCon 2019, which I'm probably going to butcher. But he says something of the effect that like you have all year to work on your cardistry and make cardistry, but you only have these 3 days to hang out with your friends.
Yep.
Something to that nature. is kind of what I'm hearing right now.
Yeah.
That's cool that you've been able to make those friendships. I know Shano has said in the past, like meeting people, online friends, and is one of his favorite experiences. And I think it's one of the best experiences from Cardistry is just being able to meet people from super far away.
Yeah. Which is honestly the thing that I'm looking forward to the most in this next like couple months, because CardistryCon's happening again, and it's been 3 years since the last one, and I went to the last one, and that was half of my Cardistry career ago. I'd only been doing Cardistry for almost 3 years at the time, and now I've been doing Cardistry for almost 6, and I'm like, I am twice the age that I was there. So there are so many more people that I get to like try and meet, and the people that like I've revered as like icons are now some of the people that I'm going to end up like talking with consistently while I'm there, and I'm like, this is great. I get to go experience friendships in person when I don't normally get to go do that type of thing with these people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to eat pizza with people that live half a country away. I get to go eat pizza with these people.
Yeah. Like one of the weirdest things for me just from this podcast is like the thought of how many people I've talked to from different countries that like is exponentially bigger than before I did the podcast, like dozens fold.
Yeah.
Just people from Germany, Netherlands, like all over the place. And I'm really blessed to have to speak English, which is like business language that a lot of people know, even if it's not their main language.
Yeah.
But it's such a cool thing to be able to interact with people from super far away with different cultures, and something that's really unique to Cardistry just because of how small it is at the moment. It's like you said, you almost get to interact with the icons of what you're doing. So like, it's almost like you get to interact with Leonardo DiCaprio or
Exactly.
whoever. And that's something super special about Cardistry, I think.
You can't go to like some community event and go have a handshake with Hugh Jackman. That's not something that you just get to do. But with Cardistrycon, you can. These people who are essentially celebrities within our community are like, you get to see just how human they are. There's no disembodied Hollywood for Cardistry. It's just people that get together and share their love for an art and the love for each other.
Mm-hmm. And that's
awesome.
Something that's like I said, really special about it. Because I know with every other hobby I've ever I can't talk right now. Every other hobby I've had, soccer, whatever, it's not anything like that. But you can just message people too that you don't know and then start a conversation. It's just incredibly easy to do. And real quick, I'm going to speak directly to the viewers right now, because I know there's a lot of my viewers are people that are new to the community. There are groups out there. You might have to do a little bit of elbow or grease, do a little bit of work to find it. But there's probably a group out there, whether it be an Instagram group or an in-person group for Cardistry. And I think it's very important to find that group, because it's really important for the health of your hobby to not get bored with it and to have kind of peers in your hobby.
It also exponentially increases your growth in terms of creativity and diversity of like thought.
Yes. So whether it be Discord servers or whatnot, just interacting with the community is very important for any community. But it's something that's a lot more digital for us, and you might have to, like I said, do a little bit of searching, but you can find that group, or you can create it. So I just wanted to mention that, and it's really awesome what you guys have in Seattle.
Yeah, the Cardistry Discord server is definitely an easy place. So I'm not really necessarily sure how to like get a link out to people. Is that something that you can put in like a YouTube video?
I will put the link in the description for the Cardistry Discord server.
Because if you go,
there's multiple.
I think the main one though, the one that hosts CDC most of the time. I think they renamed it recently because of the whole, World Health thing. CDC is not necessarily the name they should be using for that. But it really will be as simple as you go in there and be like, hey, are there any people from like this area of the world that I could like get in contact with to like hang out? And you'll probably get something out of that.
Mm-hmm. And people are so eager to meet up too because there's so few of us, you know?
Yeah. I actually, I've met two people. I'm not talking about the guy from the Seattle Cardistry group. I've met two people that I've gone to school with that like aren't Cardists, but they know of it. And one of them was like practice magic and just knows of it. And I was just like, you know how rare it is for somebody to be like, hey, I know what that is, and they use like the term cardistry, and I'm like, who are you? Where have you been all my life? Like most people are just like, oh, that's cool, do that again. I'm like, what? I did like 3 things. You got to be more specific.
Mm-hmm. That's like something that's always super surprising. I've had it happen once recently at work. I had a coworker who's like knew what cardistry was because he like dabbled in sleight of hand and magic, and it's always like a carpet pulled from under you. You're like, oh, someone actually knows what I'm talking about. I don't have to explain it.
Yeah. I started out doing magic, and I don't ever plan on going back.
Mm-hmm. I think that's how most cardists at this point started in magic, which we're starting to see more people just start in cardistry, which is really cool, especially some of these younger people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, old heads that have been doing it for a longer time. Almost all of them started in magic.
When did you start? Because you mentioned a name that I don't really recognize, and then you were like, oh, this is like when I was, and I'm like, how long have you been doing this?
So it's a weird thing to quantify, and I always say this because I was like not in the community really and not learning stuff for a very long time. But like my senior year of high school, like 2012, 2013 is when I got into it. And then college happened and like early adulthood, and I just didn't touch cards at all. And then I came back around COVID time.
Gotcha.
So it's a hard thing to quantify, and it's kind of weird because so much changed in that gap that it was almost shocking to me. Because when I was learning cardistry too, like I don't think my brain processed yet that you could make new moves.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came back to it and I'm like, I had made new moves before, but I didn't even realize it, or I didn't even process it, you know?
I think,
but I
how
feel like
was the shock with like the change of content within cardistry from that? Because like 2012 to like 2015, 2016 is a huge jump in terms of what like moves are common and like commonplace in cardistry.
That's something I talk about a lot too, because like one example for a move, for example, I think was like more commonplace back then was the flower fan, which I don't feel many people learn anymore. But like that was like not necessarily a beginner move, but it was a move that a lot of people knew, and now I think a lot of people don't learn it as much anymore.
Yeah,
so
I think
there's that aspect.
Some people are scared to do that type of move because anything that does a lot of like bending of cards, people tend to shy away from, which is unfortunate because there are a lot of really cool moves that do that type.
Some of your favorite decks. This is one that a lot of beginners like to want to hear about. So
my friend Seb produced his own deck a while ago. This one right here, Vision. This deck, I will do everything I can to represent this deck. This is my favorite deck of playing cards ever. I love it. It's great. Face designs are on point. The miscellaneous cards are awesome. Like, look at that. There's text on there. You just can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Japanese. I love this deck. I will use this deck till the day that I die. I have other favorites like Echo. Deck of the Year for a few years ago is still one of my favorites just because I love the way it feels. There are some Fontaines that make the list, like the holographic Fontaines. I love those. I think the Jaspis deck, Primeval editions, the blue and pink ones, those ones I love those. I love decks that have a very like stiff stock. Mm-hmm. And because I'm pretty brutal with my cards, I will use like one deck a lot, So if it can withstand being used a lot, it's probably going to be one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. So definitely some good options there. I definitely think Vision is one that a lot of people probably don't know about as much.
Yeah, this one's my favorite.
Definitely a unique back design there. So at the end of the show, I like to do what I call roll out the close-up pad. And that's just my fancy way of saying, is there anything you would like to promote or any last nugget you would like to leave the audience with?
I'm not going to leave anything in like, oh, I have a video coming out soon, because I don't want to give myself a deadline, because I know I'm not going to follow it if it's not like graded. If I don't get a grade for something, deadlines don't work. But if you're going to CardistryCon and you want to say hi to me, say hi. I have serious RBF, so if I look like I'm mad at something, I'm not actually mad at something. I just am not making an expression at the moment. So if you want to say hi, say hi. I'm always down for that. And I don't know necessarily where you can buy it, but I'm pretty sure Seb has some stock. So if you want this deck, just message him on Instagram. Packet Cards, that's the company. Best deck in the world. We'll rep this till the day that I die.
There you go.
And that's about it.
As always, I'll have links to Luke's stuff in the description if you want to check him out more. I recommend that you do. I'll also have links to those Discord links that we talked about and some groups that you could potentially get into if you're interested in that stuff. Luke, thank you for your time, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Really quickly, I want to throw in one more thing real quick. Glass Refractions, Jason's latest video. Go watch it. It's one of the greatest things of all time. I love that man.
And then I'll go ahead and plug myself. After you watch Glass Refractions, watch the talk I did with Jason about Glass Refractions.
Yes.
Double feature.
Go do that. Do both of those things. Watch Glass Refractions, and then go watch the talk, because I can never get enough of that video.
But yeah. Luke, once again, thanks for your time. I hope everybody enjoyed that, watched and listened this far, and I hope you guys learned something. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me.
Wrap this up. Thank you for being here.
Of course.